Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and what I wanted to do today was actually go through and do a should you buy video like I've done before, but this time we're going to be doing it about the second anniversary sale. Now, the second anniversary sale that's going on right now is going to be running for a full week, and there's going to be a lot of ships that were up for sale before that you can try and get your hands on now. Now, I'm going to be doing a video a little bit later on about the Carrack because it's going to be going on sale during its concept sale on November 28th. So there will be a should you buy video on that one later on. Now, before I get into this, it always seems like I have people commenting on these videos saying, I wish you wouldn't say, are these ships for sale? Or like, that sort of phrasing. It's pledging, it's supporting the game. And that is what it is. You are pledging you're pledging to support the development of the game, and in exchange, you are receiving a ship. That being said, we're using the vernacular, should you buy these, because it's the simplest way to talk about them. So, try not to jump on me, and we're going to move into it. I'm not going to be as detailed as I normally am on these, just because there is a lot to cover, and I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible. So, the first one up for sale is the Aurora LX. It's a $30 ship standalone. It's the $45 package that includes the game package, or it's a $5 upgrade from the Aurora MR. Now, LX stands for Deluxe, and as such, you get a patent leather interior, which cracks me up that it's not just normal leather, you're going to have the shiny leather. Either way, it carries the same amount of cargo, it's got the same power plant, though it may end up being a better one, just it's listed differently. It's got the same size engine, but it's potentially a better one. It's a different engine as well, although it's the same size, so it may be more fuel efficient, it may be more powerful, we will have to see. It's got 2 extra maneuvering thrusters, which is a big plus, giving it a total of 8 thrusters compared to the 6 on the MR. It has the same weapons overall, and it comes with a jump engine, which is great. So, the stock jump engine and the extra thrusters really kind of make this a no-brainer. So if you're an Aurora pilot out there, buy it. Do it. Especially having the potentially better quality equipment is a nice plus, not to mention the questionably better-looking interior. Aurora LX, if you have an Aurora right now, I would do the upgrade if you can swing the extra $5. Second chip up for sale is going to be the 350R. It's a package for $140. It's a standalone for $125. This can be upgraded from any of the 300 series or the M50 at various costs that you can find on the website. Now, we know about the 350. It was a test ship for a while, and it's currently available to test right now. So that's why I'm saying go fly it, go test it, and make sure you like it. It's one of the few ships that are for sale that you can go get your hands on and get dirty with right now to see if you actually want it. Now, I think that 350 can make a great scout ship in the persistent universe. It's got 2 engines on it, so it's really fast. It's got a better power plant, so maybe it can put more power towards the shields, or maybe just, again, towards the engine, so it's holding up that priority to get out of town fast. I think the speed so far in Arena Commander has been a really powerful thing, and I think it could be a good interceptor in the persistent universe as well. It's labeled as a racer, so obviously it's a good racer if that's what you're into. Personally, I think the 350 is a fun ship, but unless you really want to do those things that I already mentioned in the verse, I think it's probably an unnecessary purchase, and it's probably going to end up being too limited in its overall functionality. Thus, I would pass on the sale of the 350. Now, the Super Hornet's up for sale, and this is probably one of the ships that people are most excited for. Standalone, it's $165 for a package that includes the alpha, or not the alpha, that includes the game on release. It's $180. Or it is $55 to upgrade if you have a current F7C on the Civilian Hornet. Now, when we compare the Super Hornet to the F7C, it's slightly longer, which is going to accommodate for that extra seat because the Super Hornet carries a second person. Since it has the ball turret stock, it has a 0 cargo capability, thus it is going to be a pure dogfighter. The Super Hornet's going to have a larger power plant. It's going to have a size 3 stock, but it can go up to a size 4. The F7C only ends up getting a max size 3 power plant. It has the same amount of thrusters, it's got the same engine, it's got the same type of shield, though having a larger power plant might mean that all of those things actually end up being more effective. It's got the same guns on the wings. Instead of the Badgers, it's going to have the M4A laser cannons. It's got the same size missiles. It's got Stalker IR missiles, though, instead of the Dominator FFs. Now, the functionality on those, I don't know which is going to end up being better. It comes with a ball turret, so it's going to have those Badgers on there, meaning it's going to have more weapons overall stock. Now, and it's also going to come with a stock jump drive, which the standard Hornet does not. So the Super Hornet's going to give you the ability to have someone else who can man that ball turret, basically allowing shooting in multiple directions at once if you want. Or it's going to give the ability to have power and shield distribution handled by someone else, allowing you to focus on flying and shooting. That person that's in the second seat could also kind of be like a Rio seat where they're going to be working on the radar. Now, coming with the ball turret's a big perk, and the jump drive stock is a nice benefit too, though it's not really a real deal maker or a deal breaker. I think if you plan on being a dedicated escort or fighter jockey, then the Super Hornet's a great choice, and you should buy it. But if you want a great fighter and you want to save some cash, then feel free to stick with the stock Hornet, the F7C, because you can purchase the ball turret for that. You can purchase the jump drive. You can upgrade your missiles and the other guns and end up with a very similar loadout, which is going to save money in the long run. Though buying the Super Hornet now is going to give you that second seat and is going to save you time. It's really kind of your choice. I personally think it's worth it to pick it up, but if you don't, the stock Hornet can get very close and is still a very worthwhile purchase. Next ship up for sale, we're talking about the Freelancer Miss, and this was the sale option before. It's $180 as a package, $165 as a standalone ship, and a $55 upgrade from the stock Freelancer. Now, comparing the Miss to the stock, the Miss is a little bit longer and it weighs more. It carries similar cargo, but it does have 36 less freight units, presumably for missile storage. Now, that's one kind of a gray area because the description says it's giving up a significant amount of cargo area, whereas the stats page says that it's only a 36 FU difference. That doesn't seem like a big one, so just note that it may end up having less cargo than that, unless it's been labeled somewhere and I just missed it. It's got one extra crew spot in the Miss. It's got the same size stock and max power plant, but the Miss does come with the super version of the power plant. I'm not sure what that means, but I think we can assume it's better in some way. Maybe it's more efficient. I don't know. Thrusters in the engines are going to be the same. The shields on the Miss appear to be more combat oriented, just purely based on the name. It's got a very similar missile loadout, but it's also just going to come with more. It's a missile boat, so the stock Freelancer's got some decent missiles on it. However, the Freelancer Miss is going to have just more. It's got more size 2 missiles, about 8 of them. Class 4 has size 5 weapons on it, and there's 4 of them, which is totally awesome. It's got the same jump drives, but it does come with the express missile replenishing system. So I think they talked about that before, being the ability to reload mid-flight, and that's probably what that last crew member is there to do. So if you bought a Freelancer for bringing it into a fight, then this upgrade's a no-brainer in my mind, and I think you should get it. If you bought the Freelancer for its cargo ability, then I'd probably stick with the stock Lancer and upgrade to the Max. If you want a ship that's built for versatility, I think you could really go either way. There's some benefits to the Miss that make it a worthwhile kind of all-around ship. You're less likely to catch crap from pirates if you're sporting the Miss, but you do sacrifice some cargo ability. So for the Freelancer Miss, I would say if your focus is on combat operations, then yes. If anything else, it's just kind of 50-50. Make up your own mind. Next ship up for sale, M50, the Racer, or Interceptor as it's been labeled. $115 for the package, $100 for the standalone ship, and there are upgrades available from the 300 series and the Aurora series, which is nice, at varying costs. Now, the M50's been flyable as a tester, and we've been able to see it's really strong in the Arena Commander modules based on its speed and specifically its acceleration. It's obviously a really strong racer, so if that's what you're into, it's probably worthwhile. It's a really small target, and it's fast as hell. It accelerates crazy well. So like the M50 or like the 350, it could be a decent scout. This could be interesting though to see, and this is kind of something just fun that I envision, is a M50 trying to chase down like a Herald that stole some data. Outside of that, I personally don't see much value in the racers, and maybe that's just me because I don't really care for racing, but it's going to be a very limited aspect of the persistent universe. So unless you're someone that actually plans to race, I would say pass on this one as well, unless you fall into that kind of narrow section of people that would that this ship would actually work well for. Next ship, Cutlass Blue, $165 package, $150 standalone ship, or a $50 upgrade from the Cutlass Black. Dude, buy it. This is going to be my go-to vessel for variety work. I'm pumped about the Cutlass Blue. I love the Cutlass Blue. Unlike a lot of people, I don't care if a lot of people have it. It's a great ship. People should get it. The colorless black is versatile, but this does almost all the same stuff. You can pull out the holding cells if you want to and end up with a very similar cargo capacity to that of the black. It's got a bigger stock power plant. It looks to have more powerful engines. It's got a better canopy on your cockpit. It's got the same thrusters. It's got a better and a bigger shield. It comes stock with missiles that are at the wing base. It also gives you the options to hold prisoners. In my mind, this ship is a no-brainer upgrade, and I give this the total seal of Youngblood approval. Buy it. All right, so that puts us through those. Now we're going to jump back into some of the concept ships that were up for sale before. Starting off with the Gladiator. Gladiator is $165, and it is a military-grade carrier bomber. It's got a two-man crew, which has a pilot and either a tail gunner or radio operator that hangs out in the back of the ship. It's designated as a bomber, but the bomb bay can be a cargo hold as well. The specs don't really tell us about the capacity of that yet. You can replace the rear turret with a tractor beam, making it good for a salvage ship. It is pretty small, 14 meters by 14 meters roughly. It's probably not going to be very maneuverable, but it also has decent power plant and shield, so it might be kind of durable. The engines are 2 times TR4, so it should be pretty quick in a straight line, which is nice to see. No details on weaponry, but it should have a turret, forward-facing weapons, and missiles. With it being a carrier-based ship, I wouldn't expect it to come stock with a jump drive, and fuel efficiency is probably going to be at a premium. It's not going to be great. Now, this ship is pretty unique in my mind, and I think that gives it way to some interesting gameplay depending on how you kind of customize it. I think its main competitors in this sale, though, are going to be the Freelancer Miss and the Retaliator, but the price is really close and actually the same as the Freelancer Miss. So if I was to compare the two of them, I personally would suggest going for the Miss if you're looking for something along these lines. Because I think you just end up with more bang for your buck in a ship that kind of has a similar, mindset or goal in mind. That being said, though, if you do get this up closer to military spec, then yeah, maybe it is going to be a better option for like capital ship duty. But then even then, I think the Retaliator is going to do a better job. So personally, I would pass on the Gladiator, pick it up in the Persistent Universe. Now, speaking of the Retaliator, this one is on sale right now for $275. And this is one of the ones that people are really excited about, and it's the civilian refit of the military long-range bomber. It's about the Constellation size overall. It's got huge torpedo bays, which can carry 720 freight units of cargo, which is pretty damn massive for a ship that you wouldn't expect to be a cargo hauler. It's got an 8-man crew, which is a lot. Has a max size 6 power plant, and is likely going to be armed to the teeth with numerous turrets dotting it. Now, the stats page is far from updated, so details are really fuzzy, and I can't give you too many specifics. However, it does have 10 primary engines. Yes, 10. It's got 8 TR4 engines and 2 TR5 engines, and some of those are going to be vertical takeoff and landing style, where you go to land and they point down and kind of lower you. It's got 8 TR2 maneuvering thrusters, so that's not a whole lot for a big-ass ship like this. Overall, this thing's going to be pretty versatile, I think. It's going to be really good for organizations that can fill out that large crew size. I think you're also going to be able to get this close to military specs, and if that ends up being the case, it's a huge asset, especially in regards to combat kind of oriented organizations. Now, as a solo player, I would say to pass on this, just because you're going to have to rely too heavily on the NPCs, and until I see them, I just flat out don't trust them. As an organization player, though, I would say that this is totally worthwhile, and I think it's in line with the cost of the Constellation series, and I think it provides enough versatility to justify that cost. Next one up is the Car-2All, formerly known as the Xi'an Scout, at $150. The Xi'an Fighter is labeled to be rumored as the most nimble ship in the game, and the description goes on to say it's the bane of UEE pilots. It's got crazy cool looks that might just make it worthwhile alone. I mean, it's cool looking. It's very different. It doesn't have any main thrusters according to the information about it, but it's got an array of maneuvering thrusters that are on articulated rigs that kind of give it its momentum. Now, the version that's on sale for this is the Civilian Scout/Explorer model. The no main thrusters means it can be very small in a way. It's going to be about 10 by 8 meters. But since it flies vertically, kind of like a B-Wing from Star Wars, it's going to be really tall at 24 meters. Just really different from anything that we've seen. It carries no cargo. It carries 2 people, which I would assume, and most likely are going to have similar roles to like the Super Hornet's 2 people. Has a max size 4 power plant. The stats have it listed as having 4 TR3s for the max engine, but I'm assuming those are going to be the engine or the thrusters that are on those articulated rigs. On top of those, it also has 8 TR2 maneuvering thrusters, meaning this thing's got a lot of stuff that can move around and make it really agile. The max shield is a size 4, which is pretty damn good too, especially for a ship like this. It's going to be really hard to hit. And if it's hard to hit and has a good shield, I see versatility written all over it. So for those of you that love dogfighting, I think this is a great ship to add to your hangar. It's a pure dogfighter. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be crazy nimble. It's going to be great to kind of avoid fire. And overall, I think it's probably going to be able to unleash quite a bit of damage. I don't really know a whole lot about the weapons it's going to have, but I would assume it's going to be pretty solid, or at least you can upgrade it into that. And at $150, I think it falls in line with kind of the Hornet series. And if nothing else, then having some alien tech to kind of diversify your hangar, I think the price is right anyways. So buy it. Caterpillar, $245. Crazy ass modular spaceship, primarily designed for cargo transportation. It's almost as long as the Retaliator at 66 meters, and this is another ship that the community seems to be really excited about. It carries 3,200 freight units of cargo, and that's one of the larger ones that we've seen to date. It's got a 5-person crew, a max size 5 for the power plant and the shields, 2 TR5 primary engines. So I think this thing's going to be pretty slow, especially when you compare a Constellation, similar size, at 4 times TR5 engines. In addition to that, it's got 8 TR2 thrusters, so I don't envision it being real nimble either, even though the TR2 is nice to have, but it's a big ship. And it should have quite a few weapons, and it should also come with a tractor beam. So there's been some mock-ups on the fan sites really about the modularity of the ship, and maybe some modules that we might see in game, like command and control modules, or cargo modules, or flak modules, missile modules. And if that sort of thing comes to fruition, this ship's going to be really versatile in its roles. And for organizations wanting a customizable cargo ship, this could be it. For pirate organizations, this could give you some really good firepower, the ability to capture lots of quote-unquote salvage, and if nothing else, it might make a nice battering ram for capital ships. For me, $245 feels a bit high for what you get out of this ship, so I lean a little bit more towards no on this one. But the community loves this ship, and if it's as flexible as the Persistent Universe, or in the Persistent Universe as it could be, that might end up justifying the cost. I really do have mixed feelings. I lean more towards no, but again, as always, make up your own mind. Banu Merchantman, $250. One of the sexiest ships in the game, and it's labeled as a sturdy ship, and it's prized amongst transporters as one of the best transport vessels. It was also said earlier on, and the description has lost this, but it's supposed to be great at running blockades. It's 100 meters long, so it's really long. It's 135 meters wide, which makes this ship really pretty huge overall. It's going to carry about 6,000 freight units of cargo, so that's a lot of potential profit. An 8-man crew, a lot of mouths to feed. Max 7 shields. It's got a max 6 or size 6 on the power plant. 2 TR5 primary thrusters in addition to a TR6. So while this thing's going to be big, I expect it to be pretty fast too, especially just seeing that TR6 in there. That being said, it is going to be big. It's not going to have as many engines as some of the others, so we'll just have to kind of see on that. 12 TR3 maneuvering thrusters means I think this is going to be fairly nimble for its size. In my mind, the price is right. And while it may not be as cheap to operate or replace as something like a Constellation, and it might not necessarily fit into the same jump points, I think those trade-offs are worth it if you can find the crew. I think it's unique, it's going to be fast, it's going to be agile, and I think it's going to carry a crap load of cargo. So my vote is to purchase this. But, I think it's going to depend on how many buddies you actually have to play with. If it's, excuse me, if your organization is fairly large and you're going to have crew members, go for it. But if it's just going to be you and a couple buddies in the verse and you don't want to, utilize NPCs, then I think a Constellation may be better for you. So it kind of depends on which category you fall into. Last ship that's up for sale, the Starfarer at $195. Now, the Starfarer is kind of the standard fuel transporter of the persistent universe. They can collect spare space fuel from gas giants and transport those. You can also take on a pure or more traditional transport role and just take fuel from point A to point B. It's a big ship. It's 90 meters long. It carries 900 freight units of cargo. It's only got a 2-man crew, which is nice, so the operating cost, at least in regard to salaries, is going to be pretty low. It's got a good-sized power plant and shield, which is good because it's a highly explosive ship when you consider the cargo. Overall, I think there's probably going to be a lot of demand for fuel, so this could be a very profitable ship. Now, the ship is right for someone who really wants to specialize or just do something different that not everybody else is doing. You know, the fuel pods may be able to be swapped out for other things so you can transport non-fuel cargo later on, but that's no promise. The ship could also potentially provide mid-air refuels, and if that ends up coming to fruition, it could make a great ship, to kind of have inside of a convoy. The price overall isn't too bad for what you get, so if you kind of fall into one of those roles I mentioned, I think it's worth your money. But if you don't envision yourself playing that way, I would pass on the Starfarer. So that was a lot of information as fast as I could do it. So I'm going to go ahead and just wrap this up. If you guys have questions, thoughts, comments, if you disagree, whatever, put them in the comments. We'll chat about it. So I appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for a whole lot more content, and I'll talk to you all later. Take care.